cases, 254, with 16 new cases confirmed in the country.
Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 inspects facilities in Lagos, assures Nigerians of government's commitment to containing the spread of coronavirus.
At the end of our evaluation, a certain set of recommendations and advice will go to Mr. President.
Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs to expand number of most vulnerable Nigerians enrolled in the social register.
And good morning, Nigeria. This Wednesday, we shall discuss COVID-19, role of traditional rulers in advocacy.
What is even critical beyond COVID-19 is fear. We should avoid fear and we shouldn't instill fear in one another.
That the coronavirus has changed the way of life of people around the world is indeed an understatement. Most notably, it's also the most common way people used to greet. Instead of shaking hands, many Nigerians, for instance, have gone back to the traditional way of either raising a clenched fist in greeting or raising two hands. Some now just wave, while others also do the elbow bump.
Absolutely, Kingsley. The coronavirus has also changed the way people say goodbye to dying and dead loved ones. More and more people are dying alone across the world in isolation centers, and their bodies are being cremated without the usual traditions of burial. These are indeed unprecedented times, and every nation affected has had to adapt one way or the other.
No question about that. Of course, the Nigerian government is also adapting very fast, and with the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, which organizes daily briefings in seeking to pass relevant information about the prevention and spread of COVID-19 to Nigerians. Now, of course, an advocacy which has been stepped up in various media outlets across the country and even in some local languages.
Now, reaching those in the rural communities have always been the most challenging aspects of these sensitization campaigns, actually. This is where traditional rulers come in. They have been and are still the custodians of the culture and tradition of their communities. And as the coronavirus continues to spread, many believe it is time to leverage, of course, on their influence and their credibility with the people in stepping up advocacy, particularly as they speak the language of the people.
For example, the Gombe State Government Task Force on COVID-19 was in the news last week on account of its awareness campaign for traditional rulers across local governments of the state. The committee was at the palace of the Emir of Gombe to solicit support of traditional rulers with regard to government's efforts in containing the spread of coronavirus.
It's a good move indeed, Kingsley, and NTA correspondents in Ondo State, Kaduna, Rivers, and many other states have sent in reports of how traditional rulers are encouraging their citizens to cooperate with relevant authorities and stay at home. The main message has been for people to adhere strictly to government safety measures to curtail the spread of coronavirus in their states.
All right, very important thing that you just mentioned there, Kirian. Of course, in addition to sensitization, the question will be what more can our traditional rulers do to aid the efforts of government in helping to prevent further spread through the community transmission of the coronavirus? And how can the government on its own leverage on the reach and influence of the traditional rulers? All of these issues and more we shall, of course, table before traditional rulers on Good Morning Nigeria today. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the program. As always, we are broadcasting live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umar. Many thanks for joining us this morning on the show. And of course, in line with our tradition, we'll bring you the complimentary segments of the program, newspaper review, business, and others. For now, let's join Chimaobi Walton Naje, who has the highlights of the morning news. Hello, Chimaobi.
Hello, good morning, Kingsley and Kieran. It's good to see you this morning. Good morning, Nigeria. And here is the morning news. As at 9:30 p.m. on April 7th, there are 16 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 254. Of the 16 new cases, 10 are in Lagos, 2 in the FCT, 2 in Oyo, and 1 each in Delta and Katsina states. Now, these new cases increases the number of cases in Lagos to 130 and that of Abuja to 50. The NCDC says reports that 44 patients have been discharged and 6 deaths have been recorded so far in the country. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has assured Nigerians of President Muhammadu Buhari's unwavering commitment to containing the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Chairman of the task force, Boss Mustafa, gave the assurance at the Lagos State Government House Marina after leading other members of the team to inspect and assess facilities at some of the isolation centers in Lagos.
And he alone will take the decision as to when the lockdown would either be extended or it will stop.
We also have facilities in Epe, we have at Alimosho, we have in Lekki, we have in other places that are just waiting in the event that we need to activate and clear those facilities, especially for quarantine.
Now, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development is working to expand the number of most vulnerable Nigerians captured in the social register. The Minister, Sadiya Umar Farouk, was speaking at a meeting with the leadership of the National Assembly on the administration of COVID-19 palliatives.
The National Assembly feels that we need to work together with the executive arm of government to ensure that the most vulnerable people benefit from the Empower and so many other projects we have under the SIP.
So on our own part, the first thing we need to do and run with it is to codify what you're doing and put it in law.
May recall Mr. President also directed that we should give 2 months advance payment to these poor and vulnerable households. And that was what I also flagged up in Kwali.
And the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management says only the vulnerable group will benefit from the 70,000 metric tons of food items released by the federal government. The Minister, Sadiya Umar Farouk, clarifies this as her ministry takes delivery of the food items from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Minna, Niger State.
Minna being a fairly centralized place, from here we intend to move Gari into Lagos and Ogun State. Maize, NEMA will determine when it is going to be moved.
NEMA is in charge of the logistics to distribute these items to the populations that are affected by the lockdown. 25% of the population of the state, those are the ones that we are going to reach out to. And these are mostly the vulnerable in the state.
Now, Governor Aminu Bello Masari of Katsina State has confirmed the death of Dr. Aliyu Yakubu, a private medical practitioner in Daura local government area of the state as a result of COVID-19. Governor Aminu Bello Masari, who confirmed the death during a news briefing, said late Dr. Aliyu Yakubu is a proprietor of a private clinic in Daura, who returned from Lagos and immediately isolated himself at the Air Force Reference Hospital, Daura, where he died 2 hours later. The governor explained that the deceased samples were taken to the National Center for Disease Control, Abuja, where it was tested positive to COVID-19.
Team are in Daura now, trying to meet all those that he contacted or interacted with since his return to Daura. This is very bad. Bad news that COVID-19 has come to our state.
And Plateau State Governor Simon Bakulalong has announced a total lockdown of the state from midnight of Thursday, 9th April 2020 to Wednesday, 15th April 2020 as part of the measures to combat COVID-19. While announcing the lockdown at a press conference in Jos, Lalong said the entire state will be fumigated during the period.
Lockdown, effective 12 midnight of Thursday, the 9th April 2020 to 11th of Wednesday, 15th April 2020. During this period, there will be no movement of any kind except for staff on essential duty.
And the Controller General of Nigeria Customs Service, Hamid Ali, have approved the release of 46,000 metric tons of rice, 34,495 kegs of vegetable oil, and other items valued at 3.2 billion naira for distribution. In a statement by the Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Customs Service, Joseph Atta, the relief items are to boost the federal government's continuous efforts to ensure people feel the toll of government as some parts of the country are locked down in the quest to contain coronavirus pandemic. He further disclosed that only edible items certified by National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control for Human Consumption would be released to the public. And the International Monetary Fund (IMF) has confirmed receipt of Nigeria's request for financial assistance under the fund's Rapid Financial Instrument (RFI). Mrs. Kristalina Yojeva, Managing Director of the IMF, in a statement said Nigeria's economy is being threatened by the twin shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated sharp fall in international oil prices. President Buhari's administration is taking a number of measures aimed at containing the spread of the virus and its impact, including swiftly releasing contingency funds to Nigeria's Center for Disease Control and working on an economic stimulus package that will help provide relief for households and businesses impacted by the downturn. The statement further added that this emergency financing would allow the government to address additional and urgent balance of payments needs and support policies that would make it possible to direct funds for priority health expenditures and protect the most vulnerable people and firms. Ms. Georgieva said the fund is working hard to respond to the request so that a proposal can be considered by the IMF's executive board as soon as possible. And that concludes the news highlights for now. And Good Morning Nigeria on COVID-19, role of traditional rulers in advocacy will continue with Kingsley and Kieran just after the break.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the NTA. Now it's time for business news, and here is our correspondent, Kunle Adeyeye.
The federal government and other subnational governments have been tackling the coronavirus pandemic in the country. This has definitely come with a price, which is the restriction of movement placed on the FCT, Lagos and Ogun states by the federal government. Some state governments have consequently toed the line of the federal government, though with the exception of those who render essential services and those who deal with supply of daily and basic needs. Despite these exceptions, they still have some stories to tell.
We have prescriptions coming in, the flow is not so much, but we have prescriptions coming in from hospital, National Hospital, and the rest.
Everything went down. We can say like about 90% of our customers, we don't have them now because of the lockdown. So basically the lockdown is affecting the level of sales that we have now.
And next are the details of Tuesday's tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Kunle Ade with business news. Many thanks. Up ahead is newspaper review.
All right, let's take a look at the papers we have this morning. And by the way, Kieran, the papers are much slimmer these days.
Yes.
That's on account of what's happening to the economy. You can see there's a lockdown. Punch is down to 32 pages. The other papers we have had in the course of the week, they've also be down to 32 pages, which is quite unusual. But it's sign of the times, because the advert volume has also reduced. But there's a lot to read in terms of the editorial content. So let's take a look now at the Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate, it says IMF board to meet on Nigeria's $3.4 billion loan request. That's on page 25. Federal government plans mass production of Nigerian-made ventilator and disinfectant device. Government partners states to feed pupils at home. Chinese doctors arrive today to spend 1 month. That's on page 17. And then the lead story says fear grips medical workers as Luth and UITH isolate 40. UITH stands for University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital. Kwara searches for 75 contacts, imposes total lockdown on offer. Buhari to decide on lockdown extension this week. And Dara doctor dies. Details on page 2. It says the photograph on the front page there is very curious. Pupils of Police Children's School with the Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu during the sensitization campaign on COVID-19 in Abuja on Tuesday. Well, maybe they brought the pupils from home because schools are supposed to be closed at this time. Yeah, so it's a bit curious that the pupils are having their ceremonial uniforms for the sensitization exercise. But regardless, it's very important. Catch them young. That is the essence. Now, below the photograph, you have the following headlines. Bello, that's Governor of Kogi, sacks Kogi Varsity Vice Chancellor and Poly Rector. 2 Kaduna pastors arraigned for holding Sunday service, page 10. And Nasarawa plans converting IDP hostel to 300-bed isolation center. Zamfara demolishes shrine allegedly owned by top official. That's page 4. And isolation center doctors and others lament 30 million naira unpaid allowances. I should also say this, Kieran. The Punch is always published this, a COVID-19 update. That's the earpiece beside the nameplate of the paper. You can see the Punch, they keep their figures, says confirmed cases. Their figure is too higher than the figures that the other papers publish and that the NCDC also releases. I wouldn't know why they haven't, where they got their figures from, but they're claiming here that it's 256. Some of the editions of the paper we reviewed also indicated that +2. Perhaps you have a reason for that. But 44 discharged, that's in sync with the NCDC figures, and we did our news bulletin, and then 6 deaths, which is also in sync with that. And you can see the distribution by states and then worldwide figures. Well over 81,000 persons have died, and total persons infected over 1.4 million. Curious.
Well, yeah. In fact, some of us are dumbfounded, because of the rapid increase, in the number of coronavirus cases, deaths across the globe.
That's right.
We're just hoping and praying that it doesn't hit us that hard. I have the Nigerian pilot, and which has also stories, most of which are also on COVID-19. But let's begin with this story. That's actually a foreign news. Residents burn down 5G towers in UK. That's an interesting story to read. That's on page 8. Afenifere police disagree over killers of Farasonti's daughter. That's on page 11. Now, the lead story on the Nigerian pilot this morning National Assembly fumes. It has 4 riders to that. Declares federal government social intervention program illegal. Calls for enabling law in line with global best practices. SIP program faulty. Needs reform to make it effective. That's Lawan, who is the Senate President. Now we can explain how program is being implemented, says Abuja Biamila, as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The story is on page 8. And of course the photo story there is in fact the picture of 2 5G masts burnt by protesters in Birmingham, UK. That's the photo of the 5G masts. That's to show that people are expressing anger. They are linking 5G to COVID-19, not just in Nigeria, but across the globe. But below that, we have other striking stories. COVID-19, African nations should seek debt cancellation, says Atiku. It's on page 5. Zenith Bank introduces automated voice banking service. It's on page 6. Ipman urges Buhari NNPC to reopen all refineries now. The story is captured on page 41. Navy arrests illegal fishing trawlers, recovers 150 liters of crude oil. Page 5 is where you get that story. And then ECOWAS to buy 120 ventilators, 240,000 diagnostic kits for members. It's also on page 5. Also on page 5 is a World Bank releases $82 million to Nigeria for COVID-19. And now at the bottom is a lockdown in Lagos, Ogun, and FCT may be extended. That's according to the SGF, who was in Lagos yesterday for inspection. The story is on page 10.
Well, Kieran, I think perhaps what is very worrisome now has to do with the community transmission of COVID-19 arising from the non-disclosure by persons who have just returned from abroad and having symptoms of COVID-19, and then they go to a medical facility. This, of course, has led to what you may even refer to as, reckless endangerment, of public health. We saw that at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. We also saw that at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, which is LUTH, and that is the reason why Ofa in Kwara State is now on total lockdown. There's a gentleman who was said to have returned from the UK, got to Lagos, and he was said to have developed symptoms of COVID-19, and I mean, instead of surrendering himself to the authorities in Lagos, he was advised by a professor of medicine, to come over to Ilorin in Kwara State. And of course, he went to Ilorin, Kwara State, of course, where he was admitted at the University Teaching Hospital. And, that's where the consequences, have started down to multiply. Apart from the medical personnel that he contacted, other persons that were involved in other things that followed thereafter, they have all now been isolated. At the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, 25 medical personnel, a number of them house officers, are in self-isolation. I mean, look at what it means that you don't have 25 medical doctors to be on duty. And here now in Kwara, it's basically the same thing.
You see, I just wouldn't understand why an adult, who is not just anybody, but somebody who went to school, will do a thing like that. And you can see the chain reaction. The multiple reaction is not palatable in the first place, because now, well, let's just hope that those who are in self-isolation do not come out positive. That's that, because it doesn't necessarily mean that all of them will have coronavirus. But after the test, we'll be able to know. But what is important here is what Kingsley had just said, that we should adhere to the rules that guide us as a society, as a people. It doesn't, because there's no medication anywhere globally. What we're doing is a medical therapy, and it's working for some people, it's not working for others. That's why there are many deaths even overseas. So the most important thing now is that if you're a Nigerian and you have travel history and you could get this and you have had contact with your relatives please surrender yourself. In Enugu, the 2 persons that came by themselves, on their own. Until today, over a week now, these are the only 2 cases in Enugu. So they were commended for coming up themselves, by themselves to show up. But we were praying that, look, the contacts they had before, showing up, did not,
develop
symptoms of coronavirus. So the advice is apt at this point in time in our history.
Yeah, and Kieran, I mean, it also tells you that the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has a lot of work to do. Yes, the usual protocol is for a state like Kwara now that has imposed a lockdown in trying to trace and track persons who came in contact with a sufferer of COVID-19 to get in touch with the NCDC, which then also feeds it into that. But it all tells you that the web of transmission is widening, and that's indeed a great deal of challenge for everybody. Let's not, we have to indeed be very careful. If you look at the number of countries, in February alone, the figures of confirmed cases in their countries were very few. Figures were very few. But in a matter of days and in a matter of weeks, the figures were just multiplying in geometric proportions. And now they now run into tens of thousands in terms of persons who are infected. And it is such huge numbers that now overwhelm medical facilities and you're unable to immediately take care of them.
It is highly exponential at this moment globally. And I don't know, we're just hoping that the scientists, the medical field, will be able to, develop a concept, a medical concept that can address this virus in a stronger way. Now, editorial for today is also on coronavirus, but another perspective to that. It says coronavirus, corona food packs. This is an editorial from The Nation. It says, not the ultimate palliative, but the people should appreciate the government's constraints. Last week, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, rolled out the promised stimulus package for Lagosians with a dire warning against the sale of the food packs meant for the indigent and most vulnerable in this society. This editorial essentially is talking about accountability in, ensuring that the vulnerable section of the Nigerians who are supposed to receive palliatives in terms of food items do get that. This is not the time for people to do business with such food packs, because the situation we are in now does not call for any kind of shoddy deals. Accountability is what is in question. And in some communities, even in Lagos, where the stimulus started, many are complaining of not getting something reasonable. Some are saying that in some zones, what we're giving to them cannot even take care of 2 families, let alone a zone. That has not been confirmed in terms of clarification, but these are what we see on social media, where people are complaining bitterly of how badly treated they have been for a while now. So the editorial concerned about being accountable, ensuring that those concerned are really giving these corona food packs across the country.
Well, yeah, that's a very important point that the editorial has raised. One of our major national challenges, it's the lingering inability, as it were, to sufficiently cater for the needs of persons who are vulnerable. You can see that sometimes with persons who are in IDP camps in some cases. Some other persons would seek to take advantage of relief materials, meant for persons who are in dire situations. So we do hope that in this particular case, with businesses closed, so the most vulnerable are indeed who they are. They're the most vulnerable, and whatever is intended for them should, of course, be sent to them and ensure that those
some
things
have
get to
actually
them.
complained of structure, the kind of structure in place that could enable them, meet the vulnerables. But I said, look, during elections, we have words. wards, we have leaders, community leaders, we have youth leaders, you know, and that way we have also local government chairmen, so they can coordinate, you know, communities, because during the elections they are mobilized, right? So to know the vulnerable people is not going to be very difficult, whether you have data or no data. In every community, people know themselves, and people know the families everybody comes from, right? So it will be a lot easier to reach such a category of Nigerians across the nation.
All right, so that does it for our newspaper review today. We taking a short break now. Newspaper review returns tomorrow, but when we come back from the break, we get into our topic for conversation.
Well, thank you for staying with us on the show. And to lead us into this morning's discussion on COVID-19, role of traditional rulers in advocacy. Here are clips of some traditional rulers and their efforts so far in advocacy against the spread of the coronavirus in their communities. It's put together by Aisha Obali.
Stop peddling rumors. We're having a lot of rumors flying. What is even critical beyond COVID-19 is fear. We should avoid fear, and we shouldn't instill fear in one another. Please remember SAH.
Our people should be civil enough. They should cooperate with the authority for their own good and listen to the advice of the government and abide by the instructions and advice that are being given so now daily. If people like Donald Trump, American president, can appear on television, I've seen him talking to people being sober for more than 10 times, addressing the people. What do we want our people to do? The government is trying, our governments are trying their best to contain it. And it is so by the grace of God and the effort they have been to. If we listen to them and take instructions and abide by what instruction they give us, things will be improved.
I am appealing to all of you to maintain personal and environmental hygiene, abide by rules and regulations, and avoid large gatherings.
I call on people to stay at home and obey expert advice.
The package I have is to appeal to our people, especially in the southern part of this state, to obey the government. If the government says there is curfew, then there is curfew. We have to obey.
This virus is real. There's no joke about it, and that it is only when we curtail the spread of it that we become safe. So the measures taken by the government is timely and a welcome development, and we have promised to give him all the necessary support.
All right, now those were excerpts from interactions with some traditional rulers in the country. But this morning we have been joined by three traditional rulers to discuss further their role in spreading information about COVID-19. First, let's go over to Kano, where we have been joined at this time by His Royal Highness Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero Sarikin Kano. His Highness Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, Sarikin Kano. Your Highness, pleasure to have you with us. Join us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem. Good morning, Nigerians, and God bless you.
All right, thank you very much. And then also joining us this morning, this time via Skype from Auchi in Edo State, is His Royal Highness Alhaji Aliru Momo Ikelebe III, Otaro of Auchi Sacred Kingdom. The Otaro is the Vice Chairman of the Edo State Council of Traditional Rulers and Chiefs, as well as the Vice President of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. Your Royal Highness, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Allah for today, and may He bless all of us. And of course, those who have made it possible to bend down on this virus that is spreading the world. That has been ordained by Almighty God. We cannot help it because it's a sign for all of us to desist from doing what He asked us not to do. Precisely, you are welcome. We thank you. God bless all of us and the country.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness, Kirian.
Yes, also joining us via Skype is His Royal Majesty Eze Joseph Nwabeke Eze Amara. He's the Chairman, Abuja State Council of Traditional Rulers. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, Eze.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria. I'm pleased to be here this morning. And this pandemic, I believe God will help us to come over it. Good morning.
Thank you.
All right. Once again, traditional rulers who are with us this morning in Kano, in Auchi, as well as in Abia. Our pleasure to have you join us on the program. Let's go first to Sarkin Kano, Alhaji Aminu Ado-Bayero. Well, I mean, coronavirus has been around now, as it were, since December last year when it first broke in China. But for us in Nigeria, it has been since the 27th of February when we had the index case. Tell us, what is the report you are getting from your people in your domain with regard to what coronavirus is and their appreciation of the global emergency?
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Like it is known all over the world, COVID-19 came into the world in December and in Nigeria in February. Certainly it is a big problem, and here in Kano everybody is aware of this. And from the government to the traditional institution, we are trying as much as we can to sensitize the people, to let them know coronavirus is real, and to let them know the ways and other means of trying to protect the society at large, at all levels, from the family level to the local government level to the state government and of course the federal government. And so far I can say so good. Alhamdulillah, we are trying our best and people are understanding the sensitization program, and we are trying to avoid what can cause the problem into our society. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for that.
All right, thank you, Your Highness. We are still with you. You are very influential in Kano, given your status. And of course, Kano is the most popular state in Nigeria in terms of the huge population of Kano. Tell us how you have been collaborating with other traditional rulers or other leaders in the local areas of Kano State with respect to sensitization of the people, because there are myths, associated with this virus, which of course is resonating among the locals everywhere in Nigeria.
Well, first and foremost, we must thank the federal and the state governments for the role they have been playing since the coming of the coronavirus. On our part, the traditional rulers, not only in Kano, but the North and the country at large, we are doing our own part, especially encouraging people to really appreciate what the government is doing, to try as much as they can to stick to the rules said by the government, said by the experts, as well as our religion. Certainly, when a pandemic like this is in town or in the country, there are such rules we must follow. And certainly, there are experts, medical experts who knows this. So it is a must for people to listen to them and abide by the rules. And the government too have a role to play as the leaders. And certainly we must obey the rules by the government. And our role basically is to sensitize the society, to let them know that what the rules said must be followed. And outside the rules of the government and the medical experts, our religion as well has provided provision for a situation like this. And I believe the ulamas, the youth leaders, the other groups are all involved in this campaign. And so far, like I said, we are succeeding because everybody believes in the safety of our people and the society at large.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Highness, Sarkin Kano. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's go over now to Auchi, where we earlier introduced the Otaru of Auchi Sacred Kingdom, Mikelebe III. Your Royal Highness, give us a situation report, as it were, from your domain. And in particular, I mean, you are also in a vantage position because you are the Vice Chairman of the Edo State Council of Traditional Rulers and Chiefs. If you look at the tally of cases of COVID-19 in the country, Edo is number 3 after Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory.
All that we are experiencing is what God has ordained, and that is the destiny, the nation, the world, individual soul. So, and it has been ordained to manifest in these days as we are going through, and He knows how long it will take to profess and get the situation resolved amicably. That is, the length of time that will take depends on Almighty Allah. I'm spiritual on this because I have been asked to do certain things in October 3rd, 2019, that miracle that are going to happen. This is one of them. There are solutions to them, but situation like this, we traditional rulers, we in our jurisdiction to ensure that what has been ordained and what our leaders are saying we should do, that is viable with respect to good health, is viable with respect to a good environment, is viable with respect for individuals and the leaders. These are the situations. But given that as a matter of urgency, I believe that what is happening, it has to happen because God has ordained it to happen. The extent that it will go also depends on Him. Some countries, or nations, or states, and so on and so on, may not have it. So where it began from is China, and in China it was reduced to a certain particular area, and it didn't spread all along the countries of China, as it were. And that is perhaps the sign that we have to take, that the Quran says, if this sort of situation arises, what you do is the area where it is tempting, don't go there. And the people who are there should not come out to go to other places, so that it can be particularly resolved to happen in that. But nevertheless, that is a solution. But by and large, whatever happens, wherever anywhere God said it must happen, it will happen. Now in Nigeria, we see our son, the Emir of Kano, saying, coming out to protect the issue of cleanliness. I believe that Kano being the largest population in Nigeria, one would have felt that that is a place where a lot of these matters would have been developing, manifesting here and there, but not a single incident has happened in Kano. Alhamdulillah. But that again is a sign for the world. And of course, the Americans who are known for all sorts of devious practices we suffer the most. I have said in 2016 in Mecca that.
All right. We're going to come back to you very soon in the course of the program. For now, let's go to Abia State, where we have His Royal Majesty Eze Joseph Nwabeke Eze Amara. He's the chairman of Abia State Council of Traditional Rulers. Eze, we're with you now. Give us an idea, if you could, of the level of appreciation of COVID-19 in your domain, and of course in the entire Abia State with respect to the rural communities. What are you being fed in terms of information from the localities of Abia State on how they understand COVID-19 and are adherent to some measures put in place by government to, of course, stop the spread?
Thank you, Kirian. In Abia State is part of Nigeria. And as you can see, this pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, has ravaged the whole world. And we can say that by God's special grace, as of now, we don't have any case in Abia State. But first of all, I have to express my good feelings for the federal government and the state government, our own government of Abia State, for all the frantic efforts they have made towards curtailing the spread of this coronavirus pandemic. You can see that this is a very bad disease, which is very contagious. And on our own side as traditional rulers, having been briefed by our state government, our governor, and the state government on what to do and what not to do, we went ahead to the localities, engaged the chairman of all the traditional rulers councils in the 17 local governments, and they briefed them on government directives on what to do to make sure that this pandemic does not spread across this state and other places. And in fact, the traditional rulers involved service of town criers in every village, in all the nooks and crannies of Abia State. And this information has been properly disseminated, and people are very much aware of it. And if you go to any hamlet, any village, or any compound in Abia State, in fact, I'll tell you, 80% of people are very much aware, and they are keeping to the rules as prescribed by the government and health authorities. I think we're on board. We're top of the game.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Majesty Eze Joseph Eze Amara. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. We just hope our engineers can advise on how to clear that screeching sound. It gives the impression that His Royal Majesty is probably speaking to us from a train, and then the tracks are the ones making that screeching sound. But let's return to Kano, where the Sarkin Kano is, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero. Your Highness, fine, we've noted the report, as it were, that yes, people have been sensitized and they are aware, everybody knows what coronavirus is, what COVID-19 is, but almost on a daily basis, the reports that we get to hear from all parts of the country is that it's virtually business as usual. In a number of communities, people are not respectful of the imperative of social distancing at this time. That's one leg. Second leg is that, as my colleague Kirian was saying, there is still the perception in some communities of the myth that it is only those who go abroad that suffer from this thing. So they are the ones who will be the carriers, and it won't touch another person. So as we normally say, God forbid. If you've heard this, what is it doing to your sensitization campaign, particularly in your locality?
Certainly, what you are saying has a lot of truth in it. When a very new situation that has never existed before come around, there must be some frictions and some disagreements here and there. That is where I think we came in as the leaders in the grassroots. We need to tell people that coronavirus is real, and people are accepting it gradually. The government has played its role, like the closing of schools in Kano and most part of the north and Nigeria at large, like the closing of the borders in Kano, like the isolation centers we founded, and other campaigns of social distancing, avoiding huge crowd, avoiding other activities like in clubs, like cinemas, like weddings. These are things that are day in, day out in our society. And for the government to come and say, stop this, it has to take time. And I believe gradually people are observing these rules. But like I said, the bottom line is people must believe. They must believe that this virus, this coronavirus is real, and people are believing in it. So I believe now, compared to the earlier stages when it came in, there is a lot of improvement. Weddings are being restricted. If necessary, maybe 2 or 5 people can gather together and do the wedding, and everybody go back to the house. Alhamdulillah, I think we are succeeding in sensitizing the people. But like I said, this is something new. It has to be gradual. And I believe people will understand the repercussions of not obeying the rules of the medical teams, the rules of the government, and the rules of the religion. And I believe people are listening now, and as time goes, people will tune into the rules, and we pray Allah will help us rule this out in the near future.
All right, let's go back to His Royal Highness Alhaji Aliru Momo Ikelebe III, or Taro of Auchi. Well, in your opening remarks, you made some valid points, and you also made reference to other countries that are also being hardly hit by coronavirus. I think we have to concentrate on Nigeria and what we're able to do to sensitize our people, especially in the local government areas, which is the reason for this particular edition of the program, trying to understand the role of traditional rulers in this direction. So let me take you on this. You know, we have this belief system in Nigeria, just as Kingsley asked, where some said, look, it's only people that travel abroad that get it. Another is that, you know, if you drink a lot of water, that is going to, you know, help you out. If you have symptoms of coronavirus, there are other myths of that nature. And what I'm asking you now is whether you are aware that people in your area may have this same kind of belief, which is against, of course, the reality on ground. If you've had something like that, what are you doing to ensure that people, you know, get in tune with the reality on ground globally, known as coronavirus?
Thank you very much. I want to responsibly address the issue coronavirus as it affects the world as it is, because I always refer myself to the Quran. God says that no calamities befalls on you without having been enlisted in the divine reach. So whatever is happening to us has always been is our destiny. Nevertheless, from 1997 to date, we have set up a sanitation committee in our kingdom that take care of every area in the community, ensuring that everybody clean their areas. And Almighty Allah loves cleanliness. And of course, as we are saying, we are going by that. America is a very clean society, so is Britain. But why are they having some of this highest pandemic that we are now observing? Now, we have a situation where individuals and the communities are working variously to address the issue of poverty and various other matters that empowering the world. But the poverty that we are addressing in this community is to take care of everybody that comes here as one of us, one of the citizens. And I believe with God who has created the world into tribes, into nations, and various other classifications with different tags and so on and so on. He knows what he has said, that he has done all this in order for the world, the human beings that they are created, to know themselves and not to despise each other. If we play by this and believe in him as oneness and various other things that he asks us to do, and forbid the evil that he asks not to do, the world will be at ease. Everybody will work in harmony. What has bothered me so much is, what is the solution to this problem as it has arisen? We, government, are trying their best, and I believe federal government that has put in place the agriculture and so on and so forth, self-sufficient in food production. We should be self-sufficient in ensuring that there is peace and prosperity. If they have gone to do that, those things they have to do to enable us to manifest our inner conscience into doing all these things. And we must thank the government, the federal government, for that. What is our contribution and what is the solution to this pandemic? Are you hearing me? Because I want to say something. Are you hearing me? Yes, sir. You hearing me? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Okay.
We are with you. We are with you. Go ahead.
The solution to this pandemic is one should drink his own urine. You hear it? Drink your urine. The first you pour in the morning, the whole lot of it, you drink it, and variously as the day goes on.
Well, Alhaji Aminu Ado, so Alhaji Aliru Momo Ikelebe III, we've heard you clearly, but what you've just told us now is not something that we're allowed to go on air, because it's not been clarified. When you talk about medication, we leave it to the professionals, who are well trained to understand the biological behavior of the virus and how to address it. And of course, so far, Nigeria has not done badly, in terms of people who are recovering from the virus. We have about 44 now who have recovered. And of course, news also has it that many more could recover in the coming weeks. So whatever medical therapy that is being administered on them seems to be working at the moment. But what we are preferring is a traditional method, of course, which I'm not sure is going to be allowed to be for now until further clarification.
Yeah, Kirian, thanks a lot. His Royal Highness, the point he was talking about, using urine, that's urine therapy. That's certainly not on the cards. With the greatest respect, Your Royal Highness, we have the Presidential Task Force, the Honorable Minister of Health is there, the NCDC is also there, and elsewhere around the world that hasn't been placed on the cards. We do know that from time to time people adopt various methods and various mechanisms, and even those who've been discharged, Kirian, the number is 44. None of them has made reference to urine therapy as part of the treatment regime that they had. All right, so let's return to His Royal Majesty Eze Amara, who is the chair of the Abuja Traditional Rulers Council, is still with us via Skype from Aba. Your Royal Majesty, I still want to back up on the issue of the effectiveness of communication. Yes, you have indicated that you have deployed traditional methods, that's to say, including town criers, to drill down the message to the grassroots, that's to say the villages and so on and so forth. But as I pose the question to His Highness, the Sarkin Kano, what we still find in major locations, even in Aba, you find people who are going on as business as usual. I mean, nobody is maintaining social distancing as otherwise would be required, and people are not observing personal hygiene of washing their hands regularly with soap, using sanitizer where sanitizer is available, otherwise covering their mouths and nose when they are sneezing or coughing. So, does that indicate to you, Your Royal Majesty, that perhaps you still need to further cascade the message, dealing also with the myths about only those who travel abroad, have these things, and that God forbid it won't come to us?
Yes, here in Abia State, you mentioned of Aba. I have to mention to you that precisely on the 1st of April, our governor, the governor of Abia State, declared a total lockdown. And that means that all the major markets in this state, Aba, for example, the major markets in Aba and Omuahe, and some of the markets in the rural areas has been shut down for now. And the sensitization program is still going on, even within the medias in this state and the local system of disseminating informations. Now, I can agree with you that if this social distancing is one of the most important ways of curbing or trying to eradicate the spread of this coronavirus pandemic. And over here, people have been taught to stay away from parties. As we speak now, there's no ceremony going on in this state. If you talk of burials, even for the first time, churches did not sit on Sunday in this state. The various markets are closed, and people are sitting down in their various homes, observing this 14 days short lockdown. And I believe with every family or most families having sanitizer, which is here, which can be proved is here in our state, people are aware of it, and there's a bucket. This cleaning, washing of hands, will involve a system of having a bucket with a tap, whereby those who don't have access to direct pipe or tap to wash their hand, they put it in their place, fill it with water, use soap and wash cleanly before you can, get anybody. So I believe that the states were doing a lot, both the traditional rulers and the government, they're doing a lot to ensure that this pandemic does not spread further. And to ameliorate the sufferings of the people, this is a business state. If you close market here, people will suffer. It is a lot of sacrifice we are doing, and the government has come forward. Like yesterday, they went ahead, distributed some materials, foodstuff, and other materials, even money, to churches and other targeted areas that can reach the downtrodden to less the suffering of the people, because when you close markets and stop people's businesses, there's bound to be hardship. So the government has gone up further to do something about that. And I believe that with everybody observing social distancing and the personal hygiene and cleanliness, we will get over this thing. It's a question of time. But we have to bear in mind that it's a thing that will not last forever. So that's what we're telling people, that they need to really work hard to adhere to government and the health authorities' directives so that this pandemic can be curtailed from spreading further, not only in this state, throughout the whole nation.
All right, we've had you. Let's go back to Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, Sarakin Kano. Your Highness, we understand that the government of Kano State has taken very bold steps and measures in tackling the Almajiri phenomenon. But in this current situation, when we're talking about COVID-19, how are you and other traditional rulers within the Kano Emirate handle this group of people who are many in number? Some may not necessarily have parents or guardians to take care of them. Did you capture this group of Nigerians in Kano with respect to sensitizing them on coronavirus and, of course, what they should be doing?
Alhamdulillah, like you said, the state government has taken a lot of measures in terms of getting the Almajiri system to go hand in hand with the modern society. We thank God it is working. And when this came in, like I said, we brought virtually all sectors of the society into the sensitization issue. We called the ulamas, we called the youth leaders, we called the imams, we called the peer group leaders, and the women leaders as well. And from the traditional side of Kano, we call the emirate called the village heads, the ward heads, the district heads, and other community leaders. We all sat down on a round table meeting. And the advocacy of it is like the government has closed all the normal schools. That is the Western education schools. So we call on the ulamas and the teachers to close the Almajiri schools for the meantime. We confessed, or we told them what they know, that nothing is permanent in life. There are things that will come and go, and we pray and we believe this COVID-19 is something that has come and it will go with time. So we have to sacrifice. We have to sacrifice in all sectors of the society so that we overcome this problem of pandemic we're facing. And like I said, the most important thing is the society to look back, look at the mirror. What have we done wrong in the society? What have we done that we think is not right in this society? We must look at that between us and our Creator. Where we go wrong, let's try and correct it. Where we are going wrong, let's stop it. Where we go right, let's encourage people to go to that direction. And I think once we sensitize ourselves and we come back to our normal rules and regulations of living in the society, Allah will listen to our prayer, and I believe we will overcome the situation. But for the meantime, we keep telling people that they must believe that this coronavirus is real. We must listen to the medical experts. We must listen to the government. And on top of it, we must follow the rules of our religion. And we must cleanse our society. We must look at where we are going wrong and correct it. Once the relationship between us and our Creator is good, I think Allah will look at us and this problem will be over, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Your Highness, Sarkin Kano. But I still would like to stay with you, and then to further contextualize, the place of Kano in advocacy against what we now refer to as community spread of coronavirus. There's no question about it that Kano represents, a major hub in Nigeria today in terms of population. Kano also has one of the international airports, and as we know, the coronavirus is an imported disease. I mean, it comes from those who are flying in from abroad, and that's why you see the numbers that are in Lagos, less so for Port Harcourt, which is also an international airport. But we have seen Lagos, we have seen Abuja, and Kano, no cases. That's significant and interesting. But population-wise, again, you just answered the question with regard to the Abajire and so on and so forth, and the social distancing that is relevant in such an environment. But take on this one, Your Highness. What is being done, for instance, with regard to certain cultural, if not religious practices? Do we have a sense? I mean, I know it's a very sensitive issue, but do we have a sense of, how, for instance, to handle barriers? Because if a person passes away, usually before sunset, the person is supposed to be interred. If there's no autopsy, how then do you ascertain what has gone wrong with the person? So what do you do, with the handling of, what should they do with the handling of such a cadaver or persons who had been in contact with that. Because some weeks ago, while we were discussing Lassa fever, there was a very touching story out of Kano with regard to what played out at the Amido Kano teaching hospital. So these are, as I said, very sensitive issues, but in the context of COVID-19, which has no boundaries, as it were, how is your emirate, as well as your communicators, trying to incorporate some of these elements into the outreach to your very numerous people?
Alhamdulillah, I think we are working on what you are talking about, especially that has to do with the touching aspect of religion and culture in Kano. And taking into consideration the large population we have to really be careful and we have to be strong on this. And I think that is where the advocacy came in. Like I said, we call the youth leaders, we call the business community, we call the ulamas, we call the imams. And like I said, down the traditional institution, from the emirship down to the district, ward, and village heads. We are all together in this respect. And we are lucky we have this grassroots base because of the trust and confidence the society have in the traditional institution. We are working on that trust and going deep into the society so that they will know the importance of following the rules when we have pandemic in our society or in the country at large. So I think, like you said, Kano being a very conservative state by nature, you need to overwork to let people understand, there are such an aspect of the rules and regulations of the culture and tradition of Kano that when it comes to a situation where we have problem, we have to discard a lot of things. And like I said, even from the religious perspective, the religion is very clear on when we have pandemic in our society. Certainly, there are rules the religion said, and we have to follow it. And the rules are very, very particular about social distancing when it comes to that. Like a lot of gatherings, like a lot of movements, we have to restrict it. And inshallah, it will be positive at the end of the day.
Jamino Ado Bayero Sarkin Kano, thank you once again indeed. Now we will return to the southeast of Nigeria, where we have Eze Joseph Wabeke Ezamara. Ezamara, yes, it is true that Abia State does not have a case at the moment. In fact, in the entire southeast, I think we have just 2 in Enugu. And of course, you know that people from that part of Nigeria could be said to be most traveled, in this country. So we are not going, it's not yet Uhuru. We still, anything can still happen. So we have to take all the precautionary measures, as have been stated. Now, let me ask you, is there any kind of collaboration between Abia State, Enugu, Anambra, and the rest of Southeast states? I ask this question because, these are states that, have boundaries, of course, we know that, yes, of course, there's a lockdown. Most states in the southeast states, look, don't come in, don't go out, and all that. But then I can assure you that there are also traditional tracks, where people can use to get into other states. So is there any collaboration between you and perhaps the chairman of Enugu State Council of Traditional Rulers, that of Imo, and other parts of Southeast, with respect to addressing our culture and tradition, and of course our belief system as well, especially in the hinterland, where people can come up to say, look, this is what my forefather said, and as far as I'm concerned, it's not going to happen. Some who are religious inclined will say that, look, it's not my portion, and it's not going to happen. So are you collaborating?
Yes, Korean, thanks a lot. In the southeast, which is 5 states, comprising of Abia, Imo, Enugu, Ebonyi, Anambra, we have very good collaboration. The traditional rulers, we have what we call the Southeast Traditional Rulers Council, and within this period, we've been able to meet on camera, we've been talking, and reaching out, agreeing on what to do to ensure that this state does not really ravage our states, because every state needs to work harder ensure that this thing is being curtailed. If any state becomes so nonchalant and feel that it has not reached their state and it will not reach there, it will cause a lot of problem to the whole nation. So we realized that early enough, and that is why we are collaborating very well. The traditional rulers, we've had some meetings and been able to translate and transmit the outcome of such meetings to various states. And that has helped a lot. You know, Abia is at the middle of the southeastern states. So whatever affects Imo will definitely affect Abia. Same as Ebonyi and the Enugu and the Anambra. So we work hard, we collaborate a lot to ensuring that we keep to the rules already laid out by the medical authorities and the governments, both federal government and state government. So the area of collaboration is working very well. I hope I've done justice to your question.
Very well, Your Royal Majesty, you've responded to that in terms of collaboration amongst the traditional rulers of the southeastern states. Thank you very much. We are taking a short break now. When we return, of course, we still have all our three guests with us, Kano, Auchi, and Abba. We, of course, will also have tweets, and we'll take those tweets and continue with the conversation. All right, you're welcome back, and still good morning, Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As we indicated, we have a number of tweets. Kieran, let's take some of these tweets now and then return to our guests. Cecilia Okoroma, we salute Royal Highnesses for their presence. Apart from their expected roles in advocacy of do's and don'ts in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, it's also an opportunity to identify criminals in their communities. Too much evil, and it's time for change in lifestyle.
Yes, Hassan Ahmad said, good morning, Nigeria. The traditional rulers need to be strengthened and empowered in order to carry such tasks. They also need to be properly oriented about the nature and the effect of the virus and its possible remedies.
Now, Samuel Ebonwaye says most of the traditional rulers are trying their best in sensitizing their people. I believe the major challenge has to do with the independence of their rule. I suggest a constitutional amendment that would make them members of councils of government.
All right, Okaku David said the traditional rulers have been relegated to the lowest background in operation. We should not expect anything more from them too. They are careful not to say much these days because the government are fast to show them where they belong and send them packing.
Usman Banu Kanto says the role of traditional rulers as far as the issue of COVID-19 is concerned is minimal because of the fact that they are underfunded, hence can't effectively mobilize and sensitize their subjects. It's only the state governments that have the apparatus and resources to do so.
Festus Akimbewa, in these unprecedented challenging times that have brought enormous challenges to our daily lives, we expect our traditional rulers to support our various governments, health workers, and those providing essential services within their domain and give solace to their subjects.
Ibrahim Bello, the seat of a traditional ruler has great influence on the culture of his people and their values. Traditional rulers are very important at times like this because their followers listen to them raptly and take their words seriously. Their influence on the people is significant.
Yes, Akeju Olabaju says the role of traditional rulers is not defined, but some of them have collaborated with the government to build strong advocacy and also support in the dispensing of palliative measures in their areas to vulnerables. This, to a large extent, is commendable.
All right, those are the tweets we want to accommodate in the meantime. Our Skype connection to Auchi has been slightly disrupted. Once we get that connection back, we'll return to the Otaru of Auchi Sacred Kingdom. But let's go back to Kano, and Sarkin Kano is there. This tweet is very significant. Incidentally, I was thinking about this issue, and the tweet from Usman Bani Kanto, he was saying that traditional rulers are underfunded, hence can't effectively mobilize and sensitize their subjects. In your response, Your Highness, you had indicated how much effort you were putting in it, but we all know that advocacy isn't cheap. for you to mobilize your traditional communication setup and then sustain it over a period of time. You have to be toing and froing and then getting the feedback and then, of course, having to go back through your legmen to reinforce the messages. That isn't cheap. What more would you like to see done in terms of resourcing, assuming that's one of the challenges you face, Your Highness?
Kerian, you sound funny when you said advocacy is not cheap. I think nothing is cheap now in this country. But the most important thing is the social responsibility we have on our fellow human beings. In the advocacy, we're trying as much as we can to call on the government to look at the social responsibility. I mean, we must confess a lot of our people are less privileged. They don't have a means of feeding themselves except they go out on a daily basis. The government should look at that side and see how they can alleviate this suffering at this period. And alhamdulillah, the government in Kano and I think in other states have set up a committee, or rather a kind of fundraising committee to assist in this direction. And I must seize the opportunity to thank Kano people, the sons and daughters of Kano, who contributed a lot in this direction. I think we have over 3-point-something billion naira in our kitty to assist the less privileged. I think this is a good development because no matter how long you go in sensitizing the people, in asking them to do this, not to do this, not to do that, there is need for the government and the well-to-do to cushion the poor so that at least something will be there for them to look at as something they rely on. If I don't go out, I have something to eat to feed myself and my family, which is very important. So I'm calling on the well-to-do in the society to help in any way possible to alleviate the suffering of the common man, because that is where the problem is. If we do this, I think we'll have more cooperation, we'll have more understanding from them, and I think they will abide by whatever we say to them. Like you said, advocacy is a continuous process, and whether it is cheap, whether it is not cheap, it is our responsibility to do it, and we have to continue doing it. And like I said, what we do in the Emir's Palace now, like immediately after this program, I have a meeting with my councillors, with the traditional rulers, and with other leaders of our society. We sit down on a weekly basis, at times on a daily basis, to look at the situation report, what has happened, what is going to happen, or what is happening. Then we put our heads together, we advise the government on the next line of action, and we also talk to the people on the way forward in this situation. And alhamdulillah, we are succeeding.
All right, well spoken. Now, as a Joseph Ezama, let me come back to you with respect to the question Kingsley just asked Starking Kano, and that has to do with strengthening the traditional rulers. There's one of the tweets said, look, that traditional rulers have been relegated to the background. That's from one of the tweets we read earlier on. If that is true, how much of empowerment do you think that traditional rulers need? Not just because of the advent of COVID-19, but in running their affairs. As Kingsley rightly said, advocacy is not cheap. Let us know also how you have been managing this advocacy in your domain and how your colleagues are also doing to ensure that their people are also sensitized adequately on the COVID-19.
Okay. Thank you, Kirian. In terms of empowerment, there's something to know. One thing for people to realize is that traditional rulers are natural rulers. Our job is 24 hours. Every traditional ruler should know that the people who brought you or who put you on that seat, on that throne, you have a role to play. You have something that you need to do to them to let them understand that they didn't make any mistake. So in terms of what we may need to enable us to continue a kind of empowerment, I believe that is various governments of various states, they have their own system of doing those things. So far, on the issue of this coronavirus issue, a committee has been set in every local government of this state, Abia State, and the traditional rulers are part of the committees. So we are collaborating with the government at this moment to ensure that the good results of curbing this particular pandemic in the state is achieved. So we have not come out on our own, say, give us this amount of money or this. No, that's not what we're doing now. We're collaborating with the government to ensure that this particular thing is either eradicated or curtailed or whatever, to ensure that it does not ravage our state as it has ravaged the other parts of the world. As for maintenance or what we need to run our palaces or to keep on working with our people we are ruling, like I told you before, every state government has their own way of doing it, and I think in Abia State, so far so good. We are trying our best, and the government is trying their best. And I believe that as time goes on, something better will happen. Maybe from the federal government. You know, there was a long time ago, there was a bill which people were clamoring to give President last role. But I want to tell you that our role is already there. But government can go further to improve the lot of traditional rulers, to enable them do more. Every traditional ruler works over 24 hours. You cannot say, yeah, people will run to you for a problem and you just say, no, I've closed my job. Like people in the ministry, they close by 4 o'clock. Traditional rulers don't close in their own job. So having said that, it is left for the government, both the state and federal government, to maybe fashion out a way of enhancing traditional rulers in opposition, and so that their role can be better, seen in all aspects of life.
Okay, Your Royal Majesty, thank you very much, but I still would like to stay with you and reference part of the response by Sarkin Kanu. Sarkin Kanu spoke glowingly of the contributions and donations, by well-meaning persons in Kano to take care of the needy. Of course, the population of Kano, we know, is quite huge. One of the key welfare issues that we're having as a result of COVID-19 has to also do with part of the measures being taken by government in locking down locations, whether it's an entire state or an entire area. When you lock down, businesses are closed, people can't go to work, and we know that, people, some of them live from hand to mouth, others have to, as it were, fend for themselves. And if livelihood is threatened over a while and no succor is coming, then the next thing is that it might begin to even breach the social distancing rule that is very vital in containing this spread. What is it that is happening in Abia with regard to the supplementation of the welfare of the citizens? I mean, we know that the federal government is already talking about making disbursements to the poorest of the poor, but at least this one is starting from the areas where you have a lockdown in the FCT, Lagos, and Ogun states. But otherwise, what are you seeing from either the state governments or other well-meaning individuals? And if you are not seeing it, what would you like to see?
Yes, like earlier I mentioned that in the state, precisely 1st of April, their total lockdown in Abia State came to force. And a committee was set before then, committee that is overseeing, donation of people and people of goodwill who will help alleviate the suffering of the people. Now, as we speak in Abia State, a lot of people have donated so many things, and patriotic Abians, they've done a lot, and more are coming. And I'm not in that committee, as a matter of fact, to know how much that has been donated, but I see from what I news that people have donated so much. And the governor has started, I told you before, that precisely yesterday, that was on yesterday was 7th, the state government started distributing relief materials, food items, and other items to help the people. You know, Abia is, like I said before, we are predominantly traders and workers, people, craftsmen, people, industries. If these things are closed, it goes down to put some kind of suffering on the families of those people. And that is why our government, they were so sensitive and they went ahead to distribute so many things through churches and other agencies that will reach to those people that are very much in need of these things, so that the biting effect of this close down will not be so devastating to them. So generally, I want to thank those people in Abia State who have done their best in donating items, good items, and money to help stem the effect of this close down. So we are optimistic that as time goes on, many people will still contribute. And the governor in their own wisdom, the government in their own wisdom, they are not wasting any time. As they come, they distribute it to the people to ensure that the biting effect of this particular shutdown will not get too bad on the people, especially the traders and the workers who live by daily bread. So that's what the government, they are doing a lot now to ensure that this will not, it will not be so bad for them.
All right, I know Abia State is God's own state, and I'm also aware that there are many well-to-do individuals in Abia State, especially in Aba, which of course is the center of commerce in the southeast of Nigeria. We know that when it comes to hunger, I'm not sure you'll be counted as one of those who will, suffer. So we appreciate that contribution. Now, let's return to Kano, where we still have Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero starting in Kano. Your Highness, Kano has a clean bill at the moment because there's no coronavirus case in Kano. That's a very huge state that we have been talking about. And now the cases arise. We're having more cases of coronavirus in Nigeria on a daily basis. And the prayer is that it doesn't get to Kano with this large population. Now that coronavirus is still on the rise and everybody's looking forward to, help from the health professionals and God as well to see how we can get out of the danger. What will you be telling your people from now on, knowing full well that Kano may not be on the list of states that have coronavirus for now, but the possibility of having it is there. As we rightly pointed out earlier on, that of course Kano is an international state, if you ask me, because of course it has international airport. What will you be telling your people at the moment going forward? So because as we are here now, coronavirus is with us. It's not going, it's on the increase. Perhaps the preponderance may not be as high as other countries of the world, but at least we are taking 1 or 2 steps every day, counting cases of coronavirus.
Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for not having an issue in Kano so far. Where they have, we keep praying for them to overcome it. Like I said, we are still knocking on the advocacy and on sensitization. And another important thing is the continuous prayers of our people in the praying ground, in the mosque, in the churches, and at home. Let us stick to prayers. Allah will always listen to us. And most important is I call on people to always sit down and review what they are into this life. From morning to night, what have I done bad? What have I done that has gone wrong? What have I done that I'm not supposed to do between me and my Creator? What have I done that I'm not supposed to do between myself and my community and my children and my neighbors and the society at large? All these things should be put together, and let us look at the negative side of life that we are into. Let us stop it. let us look at the positive side of life. What have we done to touch the life of the people? What have we done to help the society? What have we done, the leaders, the late, the poor, the rich, to make the society better? If we look at that, then the positive side of life, what we have been doing to make life good for the society at large, let us double it at this period. I think God will listen to us and he will help us out. We thank him for not having an issue in Kano. We pray where they have, God will help them eradicate it. And we pray the world will come back to peace and the coronavirus will be history, inshallah.
All right, thank you very much, Your Highness, Sarkin Kano. Let's return to Auchi, where Ikelebe III is back with us via Skype. Your Royal Highness, if you were able to pick up some of the issues we raised with the other two guests, His Royal Majesty as well as His Highness in Kano and Abba, we've touched on quite some aspects in terms of further education of the people. Now, Auchi is a very busy town. It's a very busy town in terms of commuting. And we have seen how some states, are responding to persons, in terms of trying to trace those who have been in contact with others and so on and so forth. But one major problem that is also arising now is concealment of travel history by persons who have returned from abroad. What is it that you will be telling your foot soldiers to take further down to the people in terms of being open about this ailment? It's not a social disease. It's not a disease to be ashamed of. To the extent that you breathe in and you breathe out, a person is susceptible to COVID-19. What else would you like to see in terms of advocacy that to say, look, come out if you have this, don't conceal anything. That's one. Secondly, as I asked the Sarkin Kano, what is also happening, because you have a large population in the Auchi area where cultural and religious practices will dictate that, burial processes aren't delayed. And sometimes, the causes of death are usually not ascertained, via autopsy. And medical experts under the pandemic warn that there could be some hazards in that.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Let me talk a little about the administration in Auchi, which is the fastest growing community in the country, as it were. We absorb everybody who is in Auchi, citizens, and of course, stranger elements as citizens of Auchi. Basically, we have every Sunday Otari Council meeting, which comprises of the Dado district heads, the youth, and Tomos, and all that. Everybody comes there. Whether you are qualified to come or not, they come and listen. So there, we expose justice and truth. And everybody is aware what is happening in the community, because every segment of the community is part and parcel of the Otari Council, the apex body making decisions and, of course, executing decisions that they make. Now, with that, we have the Hausas, Sarki Hausa, we have the Uko, the Igbos, and the Yorubas, and other community leaders in this place, who are members of that council. So we have nothing to hide, and we operate on the basis of justice. That justice manifests in every corner of this community, so that anything that is being said by government or the council goes down immediately. So everywhere is closed, except for the food market, where people go and buy their food. The mosques, the churches, and all that are closed. Everybody pray in your own house, in your own prayer room. Now, what is the essence of that in the scheme of things in this community? We have sons and daughters abroad who send money every month, who send food and all that to give to the widows, the women who don't have. Because the woman, you empower her, you empower the whole community, because they are the ones who suffer the most when there is nothing for them. So we on our own, out of the fund that we have, that we save for the community, we donate to women, and then we are assisted by our sons and daughters abroad, especially.
All right, we'd like to thank you, Alhaji Aliru Momo Ikerebe III. Of course, we are cutting it short because time is not on our side, but we appreciate the fact that you said that Auchi is the fastest growing community, in Nigeria. What is good from what you said is the fact that all leaders of the Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa leaders in Auchi, some of them are members of your council, which means, of course, you have all the necessary foot soldiers to assist you in Auchi to disseminate the information that is very vital. And at this point, we are closing down on this particular edition of Good Morning Nigeria. I would like to appreciate those who have watched the program. And first of all, revered traditional rulers. First, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, Sarkin Kano. Your Highness, we thank you for sharing your time, your precious time, and your thoughts this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right, to also once again thank Alhaji Aliru Momo Ikerebe III, Otaro of Auchi Sacred Kingdom, the Vice Chairman, Edo State Council of Traditional Rulers. Your Highness, we appreciate your concern this morning on the show.
I appreciate the opportunity. And God bless you. God bless Nigeria. God bless the world. Thank you very much.
All right. And via Skype from Aba, we had His Royal Majesty as Joseph Nwabeke. I have difficulty with that name. Is it Nwabeke or Nwabeke? I'm just mixing that up. But I know that you are Ezamara, the Chairman, Abia State Council of Traditional Rulers. We thank you for joining us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kirin, and your brother, Kingsley. I'm happy to be here this morning and believe God will help us out from this pandemic and it will be over. God bless Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much. So that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for tuning in. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirin Umayo. Thank you for watching.